This morning, we continue our Real Food series looking at new ways food is being grown and prepared. In the case of bread, it might make people feel a little less guilty to indulge. John Blackstone met a baker who's on a mission to make delicious bread that's also packed with important nutrients.
I can help the next person in line.
At San Francisco's popular Tartine Bakery, the smell of fresh bread can draw a crowd.
As long as I'm making bread, there's always something new for me to learn.
Chad Robertson, Tartine's co-owner and chief bread baker, is part of a movement to get Americans to stop thinking about bread as a guilty pleasure by changing the way it's made.
What most of this country's been eating is a really refined, fast processed bread that it doesn't have much flavor and it doesn't have much nutrition.
To make better bread, he uses something that for now is hard to find in America: freshly milled flour that is not stripped of grain's vital nutrients.
Milling fresh flour is just like grinding fresh coffee or fresh spices. It's a much fresher, sort of stronger flavor and aroma. Depending on what grains we're using and what kind of bread we're making, will give you this very flavorful, really digestible, highly nutritious loaf of bread in the end.
Now, you may be thinking Robertson is just another San Francisco foodie pushing another artisanal fad. But he's just one of a group of bakers around the country changing the way they make bread, and science is on their side.
You'll recognize the sort of all-purpose flour, your normal sort of pure white flour.
David Killalay is a scientist at Children's Hospital Oakland Research Institute.
So in the white flour that we're accustomed to, when you tested that, there's
not much there. It's mostly sugar.
All-purpose white flour was developed during industrialization to extend shelf life. But to make it last months or even years, two main components of the wheat must be discarded: the bran and the germ. And that means losing most of the vitamins, minerals, and fiber.
Looking at the iron, copper, zinc, calcium, and there's a really big difference when you go from all-purpose, which doesn't have very many of those minerals, to the whole grain, which has much more of it. Sometimes double for zinc, 4 times the amount of zinc, 6 to 8 times the amount of manganese, and all of those minerals are essential for health.
But the author of the best-selling book Wheat Belly, Dr. William Davis, told CBS This Morning that replacing white flour products with whole grains is simply replacing something harmful with something slightly less harmful. And it doesn't mean that whole grains are good for you.
bread has had a pretty bad reputation for a while.
Yes, right now it's definitely looked upon suspiciously, but at least in my opinion, a lot of that has to do with the way that the bread is made. If we could get people eating whole grains, we would do a lot to address the actual missing nutrients in our population.
But getting more whole grains into the American diet means changing the way flour is milled, distributed, and stored. Chad Robertson is working on that, encouraging the development of more local small batch flour mills.
Coffee is a really good example that I always go back to. I mean, 20 years ago, would you think that everyone would be grinding coffee fresh in their house? All over the country, people know what fresh ground coffee tastes like, and that was a relatively quick transition.
With the opening of his newest San Francisco restaurant, The Manufactory, Robertson hopes to be part of a similar transition to a day when it's not necessary to go to a high-end bakery to get bread this good and this good for you.
And really, all you have to do is taste it, and then it's pretty easy after that.
For CBS This Morning, John Blackstone, San Francisco.
Let them eat bread, is what I say.
I could tell by the way he cut it, the way it was crunchy and then soft.
Yep.
Ay, ay, ay.
We know
Some
that
of
sound. We love that sound.